What's up everybody, Soul here with another sort of Convallaria video, and today we're going to do something a little bit different from the norm. We're going to take a preview guide, quote unquote, look at an upcoming character, SP Nungall. I'm going to go over a guide from a very great source on the Chinese side of things, and that's Miu Miu. Might be saying that wrong. This is a guide or a guide creator that is often referenced by content creators on the global side, and they're not given credit where credit's due, and I'm going to make sure that happens today, and the link will be provided down below where they have a plethora of guides and resources. Without going any further though, let's take a look at what Miu Miu is suggesting for SP Nungall, and then I will give you my rating, which might change after I test her on release, which I am stoked to do. First, let's go over the overall suggestion for SP Nungall. She has a fantastic layout, or they have a fantastic layout for Miu Miu here, where it just simply states that SP Nungall should have these traits or abilities set up with weapons and so on and so forth. As you can see, looks like their signature spear is best, but then that army breaking spear coming in second, and a double-sided halberd coming in third. We got Serende's trinket is their best in slot, Bloodluck Sight is second, and that Shield of Justice as third. And then we're coming in with the Terror Whisper, and it says right here, Magician performs the best, Justice coming in second, and Tower in as third. And then you got right here the Sword and Wand Resonance is what they suggest overall for this character. Fantastic little layout, and of course up here at the top right you can see all the characters that do well with SP Nungall, and we love to see it. That synergy is fantastic. Really clean, nice display right here from Miu Miu. With that said, let's take a look at what Miu Miu has to say about the character as a whole. First, we're going to talk about the trait, which just says right here, personality analysis, forgive the translation. It says physical damage dealt is treated as magical damage. Critical hit rate is increased, of course, by different percentages at star levels, as displayed right here perfectly by the way, Miu Miu. We got 30% at 5 stars, and then their movement is increased by 1 tile, and then at the start of the action, they apply magic defense down 3. And that starts at 3 stars right there. As does the movement, and then yeah, really good stuff right there. The nearest ally within 6 squares of yourself, and then it says you gain 1 gun shadow, which is generated in an open space around the enemy, and then the effect has a cooldown of 2 turns at start, but at 3 stars it goes down to 1 turn. And yeah, gun shadow right here, it says after picking up gun shadow, they get potential burst, which that of course starts at rank 4, I believe. 4 stars. Anyways, yep, 4-star acquisition as it says. Reduce the cooldown of all class skills by 1 turn, triggering the maximum of 1 turn per turn. 1 time per turn. So yeah, at 5 stars, she gets that extra effect where she gets all cooldowns down. Really nice. Miu Miu goes on to describe Gun Shadow, which of course has a different name as we know, but when an interactive object is present on your side, you gain crit 2 and move 2. Fantastic, just for stepping it up. And then that goes for your allies as well. And then when hit, your enemies get a magic defense down 3 for that. Really nice little AoE there. Fantastic stuff. And then of course it triggers Oath of Allegiance, which right here we got a couple different things that happen here. When you pick up those extra effects, it restores health equal to 50% of physical attack value, dispels 1 debuff, and deals 40% AoE physical area damage, which of course from SP Nungall is still magical. 3 closest enemies within 3 tile radius. So 3 closest enemies. That's really interesting. It's not 5 enemies, 6 enemies. It's just 3 closest enemies. And then it unleashes that potential burst, which we know what that is. That's 20% attack, 40% defense, and then an immunity to attribute debuffs. And then it talks about what an attribute debuff is. Great stuff from Miu Miu. And then professional skills, we know what that is. So, and then Miu Miu goes on to discuss a couple of their own outlooks and learnings through testing. And right here it says SP, and forgive that, that's Nungall. Physical attacks are treated as magical damage by the target. There are 4 various effects will trigger based on either SP's physical attack and her target's physical attack. Damage is affected by SP Nungall's physical damage modifier and the target's magic damage modifier, and is calculated based on SP Nungall's attack of the target's magical defense. For example, when SP Nungall buffs that affect physical attacks, such as block and parry, remain active. SP Nungall attacks ignore physical shields, but can be blocked by magical shields. When farming for engravings or tarot affixes, focus on increasing physical attack rather than magical attack. Good stuff from Miu Miu there. Regarding Oath of Allegiance, after SP Nungall picks up the Spear Shadow, she will first trigger pickup effect to get the buff, and then perform the Oath of Allegiance attack. And then the Allegiance attack is not an active attack. The damage range of Oath of Allegiance is 2 squares above and below the ground. So it's not just completely infinitely up and infinitely down. So it's just 2 squares up and down. That height difference does matter. And then due to its unique nature, the physical area damage caused by Oath of Allegiance will be treated as magical area damage. Interesting stuff right there. And then picking up that Gun Shadow is triggered. It says right here you gain 10 tactical points, which I believe has been cited by others, but it's actually 5 on the global side, so that might be adjusted, might be changed. I can't give you footage from the testing server, I'm sorry, but I can tell you that it does appear to be not quite 10. We'll see what happens. While possessing Freedom Stance, which is that Espionana skill, remaining idle on a location, the Gun Shadow, without using any active skills, will trigger the effect of picking up Gun Shadow and then grant an additional action. If you also have Chariot or World Tarots equipped, both Chariot and World Tarot effects, and the effect of picking up Gun Shadow will be triggered simultaneously, granting an additional action. Fascinating there. So let's go over the different skills. The focus on the analysis of the core skill, Mobile, Guerrilla, and then charge into Battle Sharp. So that's what they want to focus on. But regardless of that, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna read everything. Sealing Strike right here. Decent single target attack skill that can apply a passive or reactive prevention effect before attacking, which is very useful in today's environment where enemy passive and reaction skills are becoming increasingly annoying. 3 points in energy consumption seems a bit high. For SP Nungall, can gain an extra 1 point of energy for carrying Honor, or SP Mytha, who is 3-star or higher, and can gain another 2-point energy by triggering Cooperative Response when she is present. When carrying Crimson Feathers, she can also recover up to 2 points of energy at the start of her turn. Therefore, her energy cycle is sufficient to support 3-point energy consumption. So that's some fantastic outlook right there from Miu Miu. It's a phenomenal guide making here, thorough testing, really good stuff right here. And then we got Breaking Formation, Decisive Spear, which is an instant ability. Let's see what Miu Miu says down here. Shield Break 4, ignores a target's block and increases attack by 60% when attacking a target with a shield. A decent instant cast skill, mainly used against enemies with a shield or unyielding, but cannot commonly be used otherwise. If Breaking Formation Decisive Strike kills the enemy attacked, the Gun Shadow will be generated at the location of the killed enemy. So that's really interesting information there. So this skill right here, it's going to hit for 80%. It's an instant. It's an AoE 1x5, tiles. Does 40% damage, and then it generates one of those Gun Shadows as they're mistranslated or translated into. And so really interesting stuff there. And then right here we've got the right to Breaking Formation, Swift Strike. And so this is, of course, an AoE 2 energy cost of 100% physical damage attack right here that does inflict some magic defense down 3. Let's read what Miu Miu says right here. This skill is essential when used with a team. It is generally not used proactively, but rather its synergistic response effect is used to deal additional 100% times 2 equal to 200% damage outside of your turn. Fascinating right there. Really cool stuff. If there are no enemies within 3 squares, the cooperative response of this skill will not be triggered. Great stuff, Miu Miu. Thank you for that. And then right here, we got Battle Excitement. We've seen this on other characters. We know what it does right here, that damage mitigation. Fantastic stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Going to glide right on by. And then, of course, Insight Into is what they write right here. We've seen this as well on other characters, which, of course, is a little bit like an alert ability, where the buff includes attribute debuff, attribute buffs. Goodness. Buffs include the following: Physical Defense Series, Magical Defense Series, and Damage Reduction Series. The passive ability to increase one's physical attack and dispel an enemy's defense buffs is good in itself, but SP, I don't know who this is, has too many good skills So this move is useful, only useful at low level. So it's SP Nungall. I don't know why it's translated in that. My bad. Once you learn Honor, it will be replaced as a superior one. So Miu Miu, fantastic guide making, considers free-to-play players and new players alike. So really nice there to understand that this is going to lose value as you level up and go further. We're not just constantly serving the meta or whoever's in-game accounts or whatever. Battle Excitement is not a defense attribute buff. Good stuff there. Then we got tier 5 right here. We got our reaction skills. It says Sharp Edge. And it says right here they got a 10% damage reduction. We do a preemptive attack for 50% of Nungall's physical attack damage, which of course is applied as magical damage. And then they get a, I believe, a dodge. Let's read right here. The preemptive strike can only be triggered when the enemy launches a single target attack. That's important information. A very powerful reaction skill that provides permanent damage reduction while a ISO granted preemptive strike an interrupt effect. So that's one thing that's really great about this, is it interrupts their turn of the enemy. I love that so much on characters when an enemy comes over to hit and you just interrupt them and it's just done. It can be so powerful, and I believe it's active once per turn. I'm not sure. But let's keep going. If there's no gun shadow on the field, no friendly unit within 6 squares of itself, it will only interrupt the opponent's attack. So there will be no teleport effect, which that's what this does. It interrupts your opponent's attack and then teleports the character to safety. And so that's really nice, whether it be on those shadows created, gun shadows as it's called on here, or your ally, it'll teleport SP Nungall out of the way. And then it says SP Nungall learns this skill, and the original Nungall reaches 3 stars before the original Nungall can learn the same name shadow skill. Interesting stuff. And so right here, moving on next, we've got Agile and Heroic Stance. And so we have a 50% damage reduction right here, but for AoE attacks specifically. And it says it is also a powerful reaction skill, and compared to Sharp Strike, it is more suitable for levels with enemies that have a lot of AoE effects or ranged attacks. This skill grants evasion, which is the dodge right there, at the start of the combat round. So this one does not provide dodge, but this skill does provide a dodge, and it is innate. It is right away and instant. You'll have that dodge at the start of the combat round, and only goes on cooldown after evasion is triggered. Once that dodge is triggered, when multiple evasion effects are active, this evasion effect takes priority. Really interesting stuff there. The evasion granted by this skill cannot be dispelled or prevented. Beautiful. And then we have Mobile Gorilla, moving on down to rank 7. And so right here, this is a fantastic ability where we're increasing SP Nungall's speed and getting quite a few other effects out of it, and allowing us to basically move and teleport to those gun shadows. So right here, that's what Miu Miu says. Speed 3 gained, of course, which is 150% speed. Gorilla support. Select any gun shadow within 7 squares of yourself to teleport. When its 2 square radius is completely occupied, it will attempt to generate the gun shadow within 3 square radius. And the same applies when the 3 square radius is also completely occupied, and so on. And so what this does is it does generate, if you have less than 4 gun shadows, it generates another one to get more of them out. And so it will generate, it says, up to 2 tiles away. However, which is right here. However, Miu Miu is saying if it doesn't have space to generate within that area, it will go further out to do so and just keep going until it can. So it effectively will generate it anywhere, but its targeted area is always as close as possible within the 2 tile radius. So really interesting stuff. And then we have Gorilla can also be used when extra action ends. However, the effect of using Gorilla can only be triggered once per turn. If it is triggered during extra action, it actually consumes the next turn's chance. Interesting. Should be noted there. Interesting. The Gorilla skill is used when the action ends. Since the action has ended, the Oath of Allegiance attack triggered by Gorilla cannot be triggered. The tactical marching order removement effect. Also interesting. And then Gorilla can only select Gun Shadow summon by its own side for teleport action, and cannot be selected Gun Shadows created by enemies. So that's important in a few PvE areas, but that's going to be important for PvP, I'm sure. Which no, you're not going to face the same, but regardless, whatever. Anyways, the effect of generating gun shadow does not affect the start of an extra turn. Interesting. So next, moving on to the other ability, charge into battle sharp edge, which is onslaught, of course, on the global side of things. As you can see, we're doing a nice AoE. We're going to teleport into the middle of those enemies. 3 energy, 2 turn cooldown. We're going to slap them for 100% damage. We're going to get some nice debuffs, which are damage down and so on them. And then if there's only one target, we're hitting for 160. There's a lot to unpack here. And then, of course, it also disarms. So let's read what it says right here. Miu Miu says, disarm, debuff. Belonging in the control disruption category, the wearer cannot use normal attacks or class skills, but can only use equipped skills. So like if they have an equipped item on, so on and so forth, like your flying arm blade and whatnot. And then it says right here, trapped buff, reduced damage taken and piercing damage taken by 30%. That is in this, and it is massive. That is a lot of damage reduction. You gain unyielding, which is that resolve, so that means she cannot die. And then more importantly, and really fascinating to me, which is she can negate 1 instance of fatal damage, and this effect cannot be dispelled. So when that unyielding resolve just ignores fatal damage, right? But when that resolve wears off, you're going to now have fatal damage immunity. So you're going to have, in only one case of it, mind you, but like that's something that's fantastic to see. I absolutely love it. Really jacks up her tanking score. It's a unique thing there. But regardless, if you pick up Gun Shadow is triggered, i.e. a Gun Shadow exists at the jump point on the target location, the pickup item event will be triggered. And 10 tactical points will be gained. And that's, remember, I told you it's 5, but we'll see how it all works out when it's released with SP Nungall. However, absorbing, on global that is, absorbing a Gun Shadow will not be granted tactical points. So, interesting there. If the absorption of Gun Shadows is triggered, i.e. there are Gun Shadows within the target location area, or if there are Gun Shadows at the start point, you will first gain critical hit 2 and move to potential activation, which is that potential burst, and then perform the charge into battle, sharp will defend attack, and finally trigger the Oath of Brotherhood, which is that allegiance. Otherwise, you will first perform charge into battle, sharp will to defend attack, and then gain the crit 2, crit 1 in potential burst, finally triggering the Oath of Allegiance. So basically what they're saying is, like, if you can walk into one of these Gun Shadows first and then use the skill, do so. That's what I'm reading out of that. The height difference between absorbing the Gun Shadow is 2 squares. Interesting stuff there from Miu Miu. Thank you for that. Next skill, this is our basic attacks, Silent Strike, which we know what this does. We've seen this 100 times as well as the other. So this is going to, one's going to disarm, not disarm, but no passives and so on and so forth, and seal. And so we like these basic attacks. There's nothing wrong with them. Passive skill can only be applied to if the enemy is wounded. That's definitely one of the downfalls of these skills. And state before the attack. It is recommended to learn Silent Strike instead of Seal Strike, because the effect of sealing skill is already included in the initial Seal Strike, which she starts with that skill, of course. So there is no need to learn it again. That's fair. And then we've got Fireline Action. We've seen this on other characters like Pamina, her mama for one. And so Pamina possesses a passive ability, increases speed, and provides damage reduction while in a healthy state. So that's a 50 speed boost, and then 20% damage reduction, which requires them to be healthy, SP Nungall that is. And then we have Parry, which I can't stand this translation on this. Once again, I can't give you test server footage, but yeah, it's literally parry, and it's just weird. When equipped with the reaction Sharp Strike, SP Nungall will turn towards the target before attacked by a melee physical attack from behind, but will not trigger a priority strike effect. This is because the trigger point of the priority strike is before turning. Similarly, Xavier, who possesses both parry and priority strike, cannot use priority strike against melee physical attacks from behind. The trigger point for counterattack is after turning. Therefore, Parzival, when we do not have yet, who possesses Mind's Eye and counterattack, can turn and counterattack after being attacked by a single target attack from behind. Fascinating stuff from Miu Miu. This is what I'm talking about, deep insights on these skills and how they operate and what they do. And then, of course, we got right here, this is the SP skill, Sense of Honor. And so what this is going to do is it's going to increase the amount of energy you get in your crit rate. And this is really, really nice. It can be triggered 1 time per round. It's a very powerful passive ability that significantly increases your crit hit rate and critical hit damage, while also providing energy restoration. SP Nungall can only unlock this skill if you have 3-star on SP Nungall, and then the original SP Nungall learns, or the original Nungall learns Sense of Mission, which, you know, that you'll have that skill. It'll be shown on there and whatnot. But yeah, moving on and looking forward, we're gonna look at what Miu Miu thinks about this character otherwise. By scrolling on down, we're gonna skip over the rank 13. Right here, we're going to go to Miu Miu's recommendations. So Miu Miu at rank 11 says you should get the left ability, the left attack, which is, you know, which is shown right here at rank 9. At rank 7, Miu Miu says use a Castalia, and get both Gorilla and gosh, I'm blanking regardless. That, I want to say Lubu from Dynasty Warriors, but yeah. You know, Onslaught. There it is. Onslaught. And then at rank 5, they're telling you to go on the left side over here and get that reaction. Battle Fervor over here at rank 3. And then the starting ability, rank 1, they want you to go over here on the right. And then it says recommended skill sets, clearing miscellaneous items and single routes, single strike, sharp edge, sense of honor, mobile, guerrilla warfare. This is the suggestion they're giving you for this, clearing miscellaneous items and single routes. If you haven't unlocked Sense of Honor, you can use other passive skills such as combat excitement or insight or frontline action as substitutes. If there are many enemies in the level that are mainly using area of effect range attacks, you can replace the reaction skill with sharp strike, of course. And then right here is the next recommendation, task force collaboration team. So this is when she's with a team. And then right here you have Silent Strike, Sharp Edge, Sense of Honor, Breaking Formation, Swift Strike, charging into battle and Sharp Edge. Instead of actively using Break Formation, Swift Strike, it is triggered by the teammate's coordinated command. So this is when you rely on your teammates and you're doing tons of extra damage out of turn, which is why that tower is on the list as far as great options. Of course, the recommendation for the resonance is Sword and Scepter, and she says it is, or Miu Miu, says it's universal. And then the weapon recommendation, of course, is that signature weapon, which it says right here, critical hit rate and attack is increased by 10%. I'm just going to read the 5-star stats. And the sum of movement in charge and teleportation distance is greater than 5. The magic damage is increased by 25% at max level, lasting till the start of the next turn, which is pretty massive. The attack and crit hit significantly increases damage after moving a specific number of squares. The damage increase effect is triggered only if the player attack action proceeds to a specific number of squares. Movement cannot be aided by tactics or teammates. Fascinating. Therefore, the teleportation distance of the tactical movement command is not included in the weapon's sum of movement, charge, or teleportation distance, so that's fantastic information there. Outside of the player's turn, using SP Sophia's line of deployment, so I believe that's Sophia, not Sophia, it's a translation. Deployment of move distance of 5 squares or more will not trigger the damage increase effect, so that does not work with SP Sophia. And then furthermore, the number of squares jumped over ditches is also not counted and is considered a moving directly from jumps, starting point, and end point. So jumping does not affect that movement either. Fantastic information there. And then since there are currently no gun users besides SP Nungall who can deal magical damage, this weapon is not very suitable for use by other characters besides SP Nungall. According to tests, under normal circumstances, the output of a 2-star exclusive weapon will be higher than that of the 1,000 Army Breaking Formation Spear. Fascinating. So 2 stars seems to be the point in which it does better damage-wise. So this is the best in slot for SP Nungall. Does not have value for other characters outside of SP Nungall, but at 2 stars slams harder than other weapons. Fascinating information. Now we have that Army Breaking Spear. And what Miu Miu says about that: increases attack and crit rate, increasing critical hit damage after moving a specific number of squares, and refunds energy and cooldown. To trigger the effect, increase damage and reduce energy consumption on cooldown, the player must complete specific number of actions with their attack. Movement cannot rely on tactical teammate assistance. Therefore, the teleportation distance and so on and so forth, we know that does not have an effect or work on it. SP Sophia's line of deployment, which is where she's moving the unit, will not trigger the effect either. Furthermore, the number of squares jumped over also does not affect it, so it just has to be outright movements, no jumps, no helps, no assists. Using instant casts such as Breaking Formation, Decisive Spear will not refund the energy and or cooldown and reset the movement distance. So good to know there. And then neither Oath of Allegiance nor Coordinated Response damage benefits from the critical damage bonus of 1000 Army Breaking Spear. Noted. Great information there, right there, Miu Miu, and that's why it's in bold. This does not benefit SP Nungall in its entirety. And then, of course, we got double-sided halberd. Slightly increases attack power and provides additional damage based on number of targets hit, which we know that. I mean, but good stuff. And then, of course, they have the nameless staff or whatever in here as well. Provides extra movement, increases critical hit rate after moving a specific number of squares. It is not recommended to equip on SP 5-star SP Nungall, because at this point, she already has 100% crit rate. The initial 10%, personality gives her, which is a trait, 30%. Sense of honor gives her 30, crit hit 2, plus 30 equals 100%. There's no need for increased critical hit rate at that point. So at 5-star SP Nungall, this is effectively useless. Fantastic. Now for the trinkets. We're going to look at Serende's trinket, that dagger. Gun Shadow is a trigger, so when carrying Crimson Feather, SP Nungall will receive a significant boost to attack and defense attributes and energy recovery at the start of each action. That's what makes this trinket so good on her, and so yeah, that's fantastic. That makes it a no-brainer as a slot for SP Nungall. And then Blood Luxite Amulet significantly increases your magic damage and magic area effect damage. The damage amplification effects on magic damage and magic area effect damage cannot be triggered simultaneously. Only one of them can be triggered at a time. And then we have the Shield of Justice, which everybody absolutely loves and drools over. Provides a physical shield. Having a physical shield increases the attack and defense attribute. In addition to the Shield of Justice, you can also use items such as Shadow of Deception, Hourglass, or Hourglass of Time, or Precision Ruler. All these things are basically good, is what Miu Miu is saying. But best in slot is Serende's signature trinket, which is that dagger. You absolutely want that. And then, of course, they put in here Maverick's Cloak. When there are no friendly units nearby, you get those defense attributes and that crit hit rate, but like she said, at 5 stars, it has no value. SP Nungall already has 100% crit, so this does not have value at 5-star Nungall. Fantastic stuff right there. Moving on, let's talk about the tarots. Let's see what Miu Miu has to say about that. The Magician Dream, a universal damage boosting tarot, specifically suitable for wide area damage. Dealers like SP Nungall is #1 in slot for them. And it says Judgment of Justice is second, increases your crit hit rate. However, it provides little benefit to SP Nungall when she already receives 100% crit rate at 5 stars. And then it says the Destruction of Tower increases your out of turn damage, specifically increases your damage of Oath of Allegiance in that rally response. It says synergistic response, but allied response, rallied response, but regardless, out of turn. So that makes the tower effective for that reason. Maybe if you want some sustain, throw a little bit of lifesteal on there. That's my own 2 cents. I can't wait to test and play with it. But regardless, team composition recommendations. It says characters belong to the synergy system. SP Misa, SP Fakar. So that's Mytha, Fakal. We got a Nana, Momo, and then Nono Will. So fantastic stuff right there. And the characters that can provide SP Nungall with strong auras are SP Inanna, Lufty, Dandelion, and Cole. Fantastic stuff right there. Overall character analysis. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail and read everything. I think it's fantastic that Miu Miu has gone through here, and the link will be in my description, so make sure you go check it out. But I'm just going to read topic #1, weapon combinations for different scenarios. Maximum spending. The combination of Blade Breaking Spear and Crimson Feather maximizes damage output for regular dungeon runs and allows for safe use of auto battle. That's so important because I know so many people love to just auto things, and so that is huge. Revitalizing an old weapon, 1,000 Army Breaking Spear and Blood Crystal Amulet, slightly lower damage output at a high cost effectiveness. Interesting. And then short round maximum output, 1,000 Army Breaking Spear, Crimson Feather, or Blood Crystal Amulet, which is that Blood Luxite. And it says right here, Scepter plus Holy Grail imprint, which is, you know, interesting there. Scepter and Holy Grail, so that's going to be your wand and chalice, so that's going to allow you to get your energy back. But yeah, utilize the energy cooldown return mechanism and Inanna's extra action to unleash multiple ultimate moves in a single round, maximum short round output. So this is when you want to go in and do tons of damage all at once. You're going to want that wand and cup resonance so that you can get your energy refund, cooldown refund, and go ham. So definitely some interesting stuff there. As I have said, Miu Miu goes further and talks about a lot of different things and has a very detailed guide. You have to appreciate this person. Make sure you go check them out and give them some love. Like I said, other content creators are referencing this and utilizing this. This person deserves the credit big time. With that said, let's talk about the ranking. Now we have SP Nungall right here coming in with a 0 in physical damage, a 17 in tanking, a 2.5 in healing, an 11.5 in magical damage, a 14 in buffs, a 16 in debuffs, and a 6.5 in utility, giving her a total of 67.5. That is tier 0. She does appear to benefit pretty great at 3 stars. That does seem to be her breakpoint. 5 stars absolutely slams, and that's where you should take her if you plan on using her all the time. This is a character that, like all characters, has tons of power creep coming in. Her kit is wide and versatile and has a lot crammed into it. Like, you wouldn't guess 17 tanking, but she has so many different ways of mitigating damage and creating survivability for herself. And it really is a huge value to her. She gets in, she hits hard, she has a way to get out. She's mobile, she creates a lot of synergy with different units. And what Miu Miu said is accurate, 112%. She's going to basically... These new characters are coming in right now, SP Mython, SP Nungall. They're synergizing teamwork. They're working together to create ripple effects and waves of damage. And so that's where she comes in strong. If you don't plan on using her with the Convallaria team, sort of Convallaria team, she's not that great. Will she get power crept? Probably, and probably pretty hard. I don't think this character has tremendous staying power, but is a ton of fun and is powerful now. So pull at your discretion, whether you want to or not. That is totally up to you. Now to jump over to my tarot predictions. As you can see, my tarot predictions on this splash art is really, really weak. I'll just say that outright and up front. There's not a lot to go off of in here to really pick it apart and to find everything. That's my opinion and my assessment. However, there are a few things that I was able to look at and see, and clearly I have the Moon and Temperance up here as the 2 cards I see most closely resembling the splash art. And a couple key features are, the Moon, you know, no, seriously. Over here you have 2 towers behind the Moon. As you can see, we have what is clearly a tower here. Now you could say there's a couple others, but what's important is that they're on either side of the figure, and the column could act as a tower, kind of doubling in that effect. And then you can see in the Moon card these stars that are sparkling, which we have star sparkling, we have all that. You see that there's definitely there's stars appearing in front of the buildings. So it's almost like the stars are falling. Well, that's what we have in this scene. It's kind of like the snow is falling, so that's kind of a big deal there. I see a huge resemblance in that and then in that way. And so that's something that's worth taking note of right there. You could say that there's 3 points off right here in this Moon. There's 3 points right here together, but there's multiple points, so I'm not really too fussed about trying to draw anything from that. Like I said, you know, XD Studios is starting to rely on AI art and things, so there's no telling what goes on and behind the scenes and what's really taken into consideration in the splash art. But over on the temperance side, you can see this column that's dribbling water and whatnot. It's very much the same as what's in this column, and they look identical. Both kind of lead to, with this on the card, it leads to a tree that's masking, you know, what you'd assume is the sun. And in this, it's kind of just leading up, and it's masking the moon, and they're similar in that way. Now, in the temperance card, which is the red circle, you can see the angel is reaching for the water, and it's kind of just letting it flow through their hand. And it's to show kind of like resilience, understanding, you know, and so on. That's what we see kind of with Nungal gripping the spear. She's kind of holding it. She, you know, it's just resting in her hand, and she's kind of just embracing it, looking at it, and thinking about it. Not anything too big. And then, of course, they're sitting in similar fashions, which, of course, Nungal does not have her shoes off. But she is sitting in a nice, relaxed way that is similar to what the Temperance Angel is doing. And so, sorry guys, it's a weak prediction, but that is my prediction that those two cards are her card. As far as the pools, you let me know what you think down in the comments below. With that said, you guys tell me, what do you think? Are you excited about SP Nungall? Do you appreciate this deep dive insight look through a Chinese player's guide? This is a very good Chinese player, really good guide. So like I said, is referenced by quite a few others. And so what do you think? Did you appreciate a glimpse at that? Is it something you don't really care for? You want me to stay away from it? It's really tough to do these preview videos. I kind of just go over what, you know, other sites say in Chinese with poor translations. I'd much rather go to Miu Miu, give them credit, and show what they have. And then, of course, my plan is to test once I get the character and to make sure that I agree, because how can you know without trying? And so, yeah, you guys tell me what you think. I'm really eager to get your feedback on this. With that said, huge shout out and thank you to my soldiers. You boys and girls, guys and gals, are the ones that are keeping the content flowing, me going, and my lights glowing. It really means the world to me. I'm deeply grateful for y'all. If you too would like to support the channel, make sure you check out the links down below, where of course we have our Patreon. You can be a YouTube member as well as a Ko-Fi. Until next time, guys, I will catch you later. Bye.